it's great to see Australian entrepreneurs getting out there and building something that's creating jobs. So I'll introduce Andre. If you'd like to come on down, if you can give a round of applause. Thanks, Ian. Cool. I'll leave you to it.
Hi. Thanks for inviting me here. If I see people talk, I'm not so much interested in their formula for success because it's bullshit. I'm interested in what their first fucking year was like, you know, and when you were really dumb, if not still really dumb, what was that like in the beginning? So that's what stuff I like to talk about. So I like to talk about my journey, and then I'll talk about 3 things that I think have been really important to our business. And I don't know if anyone's heard me talk before, it's the same shit, but I'll make up some other stuff. And I apologise if anyone's sensitive to bad language. I sometimes get accused of it. I write a 20-page speech and I just start and write fuck in the middle of each page. And then I just fill it with random shit. And that's my talk. I try not to do that. All right, so I was, I was like a child actor. And I was quite smart at school, but I left high school and I became an accountant. I studied accounting at uni, and that wasn't amazingly inspiring. So I left that and I started a business with my dad, who was a sort of old school German immigrant, corporate MD of a company here. And anyway, I sort of thought, all right, let's start this empire together, Dad. So he was an MD of an international company, and he always wanted to start his own company. So we did this thing together, and I was dumb and he was an alcoholic, and it didn't work. That's not funny, don't laugh, that's mean. It was a financial and emotional travesty, and it scarred me, and went horribly wrong. And so you're still laughing, that's just mean, dude. So anyway, I ran away and became an actor again, and went into the Gold Coast and lived for 2 years, and then did stuff, and I came back and I wanted to be a singer, and I started a band, which was my second startup, and that too was a miserable failure because I wanted to pay the musicians more than we were getting paid for the gigs. So that didn't work, and I had to sell the band, give the band to my agent who paid back. Anyway, so that was my second failure. Then I started a theatre production company. It was about 26 or something. And with a few friends, we wanted to transform the face, this is living in Sydney, transform the face of independent theatre, which were like actors would get together and do a co-op, and they would make $17.50, and they would spend, $460 at the bar. So nobody made any money. We wanted to do professional shows. We were smart business people with all this track record. So we're going to do professional production. So we did this big production. I think it was a $160,000 budget. We got sponsors and we put it on at the Sydney Theatre Company. And it was, and we hired actors at award wages and a professional director, and we marketed it. And it was really great, and it lost $100,000. So, and finished early because the actors went on strike when we didn't pay them in that 4th week. So that was a failure. So then we became an events company and we worked on doing corporate events for 12 months to pay back the actors. And then we didn't like doing that. So anyway, that was my 3rd failure. And then I got out of that, and I got a job I was still acting and singing at this stage. I got a job in a company called Cellar Masters, who are a direct mail wine company in Sydney, and they used to hire unemployed actors to sell wine, because we would put on fake accents and just good bullshit. So I did that, and I had been exposed to wine as a drinker, but this was my first exposure to wine as someone working in it and selling it. And I quite liked it. I thought this is quite cool, and I did their education program, and I thought this is quite cool. But I had no interest in getting into the wine industry. So in that time, I'd met my wife, who was an employed actor and a good one, and she had this job on a cop show called White Collar Blue. It was meant to go for years and years and years, and got really good ratings, and everybody loved it. So I thought, great, she's on a good wage, and we bought a house, and I'll just quit my job, and I wanted to make movies. So I thought I'll quit, and for the first time in my life, I'll actually learn a craft rather than just jump into a business. So I thought, excellent, I'll quit this job at Cellar Masters. I'll spend a year learning to film and to edit, and because I thought I was too old to go back and study, and I couldn't afford to. So I thought that's what I'll do, and then when I'm good at it, I'll start my company, The Vision Gallery, and I'll just do a few corporate videos just to get some money, and then I'll just make movies. So that was my plan. So we bought a house as well in Sydney. That was our first house, and we were really excited. And I quit my job, and then 3 days after our house settled, her show got canned. So, which happens, but it was quite unfortunate. So we were both unemployed, and we just had a new mortgage. So she's freaking out, quite understandably, I think. And I'm like, don't worry, it'll be fine. We'll find a solution. So I jumped in my car and I had a DVD. That, it was like the South Australian Film Corporation made this amazing DVD of all these beautiful locations in South Australia. And they were like helicopter aerial shots of like Flinders Ranges and Kangaroo Island. Just this beautiful high production value thing. I only had it to sort of see what could be done in this space. It was the beginning of my studying, because a friend of mine had done the music for it. Anyway, I grabbed this thing and I drove up to the Hunter Valley. Because I thought, oh, I know wine. So I went to the Hunter Valley Wine Tourism office and asked for the marketing manager. She was in. So I said, listen, I've got a video production company and this is what we do, and I think it'd be really great for you guys. And she's like, yeah, fuck, this is really impressive. Yeah. So anyway, she went, yeah, this would be great for us. And I said, oh, it's $5,000. So she said, yes. So I signed the contract and got a $5,000 job, and I drove back to Sydney and I went into a second-hand electronics store and I bought the best camera that I could afford, which I think was about $1,100, and like a $200 piece of software. And I went home. I said, honey, we're not unemployed anymore. I started my video production company. So then I learned how to do it. That wasn't how I meant to start, but sometimes you don't have any choice. And it was sort of probably, I would have faffed around and probably changed my mind. But anyway, I did that. I ended up learning fast, and I quite enjoyed it. I hired a helicopter. I'm afraid of heights. I hired a helicopter and strapped myself out the fucking door. Because I'd sold them on this aerial shot. And I didn't know how to do an aerial shot. So I hung out this helicopter. But I got an aerial shot, and they really liked that. It looked bad. But anyway, so that was it, and that was my video production company. So I did that for a while. We had our first child, and it was going all right, but not making enough money to support a Sydney mortgage. So and my wife was from Adelaide. So we moved to Adelaide when my son was born. It was 2005. See your Sydney Swans on the premiership. Just saying, you can. Well, no? Okay. Fucking Melbourne. Okay. And that was good for the business because, there was a lot of wineries, and so business went well, and I did jobs for wineries there, but I sort of was a tradesman, I was like, all right, I would go and get a new job and find a client and then do the work and film it and then edit it and then deliver it and then have to get another job. And so I was sort of on the precipice of like, do I try and take on too much work than I can do and actually hire some people and try and catch up then with the margins that I need, or do I just do something else? And I'd started, a friend of mine was sort of early in the internet game. I'm not saying 2005 was early in the internet game. He was back when we were like out of high school. He worked for CompuServe, which was pretty much the first first computer, I guess it was internet, company in Australia. Anyway, he'd sort of had a couple of internet sites that he built, and he had this thing called passive income, which at the time I was like, oh, it's cool. So you got like, stuff happening all the time and you don't have to do it all. And so he's like on making all right money. And I was like, I need that. So I started thinking about what I might do. And I was interested in this idea of the wine industry at the time. And I'd started doing websites for wineries as well and wine tourism. So I'd sort of become a bit of an area of marketing as a service for the wine industry. So I started thinking about that. And I started getting interested in this idea of, it was an industry where you had professional critics like James Halliday and, great, but that was the only source of, or you had someone writing a recommendation in the newspaper. There was no sort of, this idea that maybe customer reviews on wines. I had this idea for a place you could go where you could look up a wine and you could see what like 200 or 300 people that were just like you, that just bought and drank this wine, what they thought. You understand what a customer review is, I'm sure. But at the time, this was quite revolutionary because Amazon had only just sort of introduced customer reviews. And so I thought, this was really cool. So I started planning out this idea for this business. At the same time, my brother-in-law, Justin, he'd been in all sorts of stuff, but he had studied wine marketing, but then gone out of it into stock markets and property development. Similarly, had not gone well for him. So he'd run away to South America to just sort of like refine himself. It's like a journey of self-discovery. Is how he described it to the Colombian officials. Anyway, he spent a bit longer in South America than he'd planned. But when he came back, he wanted to get back into wine, and he discovered over there Facebook, right? So literally it's 2006 now. And so this was, this was early stage Facebook where, it was in Australia, but it didn't have any traction. And it was still sort of mostly uni students and backpackers were sharing photos with their families on Facebook. So he had this idea for like Facebook for wine. And he was good. He understood not technology and not even sort of social, but he understood consumer behavior around technology and that movement. So he sort of thought there was really something in this social platform. So he came back with an idea to start. And so Christmas Eve 2006, and we're both pissed, and we're both talking about our new businesses. And we literally, it's the first he'd been back for like a week. First we'd spoken about these businesses. We're both gone, oh, it's the same shit really, isn't it? So we're either like, oh, good luck with it. Oh, fuck, we should just do it together. So yeah. So we decided to go into business together. Which if you knew Justin and I at the time, you'd go, are you fucking kidding me? He didn't really like me, and he was a very protective brother of my wife. Anyway, but we were drunk, and so we did that, and we went into the garage. I had a garage office, and we just like searched domain names. It was a stupid domain name. It became a business name, and anyway, we started this business, and we built this thing, and that was our beginning of our business. In 2000, we launched in 2007. That was a social platform for wine, and we just thought people would like wineries would just think this was so awesome. Oh my God, people can talk about our wines like on this platform, and yeah, here's $500. Can we just be part of that? So we had it all figured out. So we started going around to wineries and go, hey, this is a great thing where your customers can talk about, review your wines online and share recommendations. And they're like, whoa, sorry, customers review our wines? Yeah, no. What do you mean? Well, what do they know about wine? Well, they're drinking it. Yeah, but what if they write something bad? Oh, you got a chance to, contribute to the conversation? And they're like, no. So, and you go, but it's kind of like Facebook. Say what? Facebook. I've heard about it. Yeah, no, that's just a fad. That won't last. So we so nobody wanted to give us money, but we thought it was good. But people did like it. And they liked the idea. And I'll get into why they liked it, because it wasn't particularly useful. It's not like life-changing that suddenly you can review a wine on an app, although a lot of people continue to try to launch these apps. Especially at that time, it wasn't particularly useful. But people, I think, liked that it was something happening in this space in wine. Anyway, we did that, and the revenue model didn't work, and we tried lots of different things. And we were sort of at the beginning of a wave of, Facebook really came to the fore here, at least in 2006. We launched this in 2007, and we're sort of trying to be that. Then, Twitter launched, and we got onto that and started doing tweet-ups of wine tastings. And then YouTube's really big, and so we started doing this wine show. We wanted to buy a combi and travel around the country. So we're sort of chasing technology. We were going broke because we didn't have any capital in the beginning, and no one was giving us money to do any of these things. So we sort of burnt through money, and I'd been pretty bone-ass poor anyway before that, so not a particularly great catch for my wife. And we'd sort of, I've got this business, start this business. So a couple of years into that journey, that was a couple of years of her, she was doing pretty well before me. So she was quite cute, so she could have found someone with better prospects than me. So anyway, we'd been trying for quite a while. It was, Christmas is one of those times where things are going great in your life, and you've got a boyfriend, or you're in the job you like. It's a wonderful time. You get a week off or 2 weeks off. You celebrate how wonderful life is. If life's shit, it sucks because you're bone-ass broke. You can't afford to buy presents for your kids, and you've got 2 weeks to sit around and think about how shit your life is and listen to fucking Christmas songs in supermarkets. So it was not a great time. So my wife sort of sat down and we had the talk, and she was like, when is enough? When do you call it and accept graceful defeat, and it's perhaps not for you, and you go and get a job and actually support the family? Which is fair enough. So, and it was Justin's sister and my wife, so she was, and both of our families had no money. They both sort of fucked it up. So we were it. we were it. So I sort of said, all right, and we talked and I took it serious. I thought that's fair enough. So I said, look, 3 months. Give us 3 months. We'll end of March, and we picked a date. If things haven't, we'll try and get some investment. And if things haven't worked by then we'll go and get jobs. And we even looked at jobs, Justin and I. It's quite depressing. But anyway, so we hit the pitching circuit. And I wrote up like this. I've still got it. It's honest to God about 25 pages, but not like a PowerPoint, like a fucking document, like a Word document. It's just like so much shit in there. And we'd come up with this convoluted business plan, which oddly is remarkably similar to what we're doing right now. But at the time, it seemed like we've got all this great data on people and the wines they like, and we can use that to tailor suggestions of wine purchases. And we thought that was really brilliant. We didn't know whether we intended to do that, but we certainly thought it sounded good in a pitch. So we started pitching to anyone that would listen to us. And it just was like, yeah, we love your enthusiasm, but we don't see a business model in there. And they were right at the time. There wasn't a business. And I thought that revenue was not even a necessary evil. I thought it was bullshit that no one would just give us money to do this. I thought if you've got a good idea, that should be fine. Which, of course, I've learned that isn't. But anyway, so we did that, and March came and went, and nobody had given us money, and I sort of, it was that awkward thing of knowing that you passed your deadline, and your wife's looking at you and trying to have the conversation. I just didn't have the conversation, which is bad form. It's not good husbanding, but I couldn't face it. And not because I was so noble, or it's not even because I had all this belief in what I was doing. I just was stubborn. I think I'd had so many business failures, and I remember at the time, it started to get to this stage where I thought, and this will sound a bit stupid, but at the time you think crazy stuff. I thought I was cursed. I thought I'd done something, and there was this weird curse that was presenting this otherwise smart guy. This smart guy, I know, you're all skeptical, but I was quite smart. I was the guy at school, everyone's going, well, fucking, you'll make it, but and all my friends the ones that had pursued careers, are doing really well. Some of them pursued businesses, doing well, and I'm the guy that's fail at every single thing he's tried. I sort of refused to believe that. I thought, fuck, if I fail at this again and I quit, that's it. That's it. I don't have it in me to do again. So I didn't quit. And then in May, we got an investor. A guy, sort of a friend of a friend of a friend who's just had too much money and had never had to work for it. Bless his heart. I don't mean to sound disrespectful, but really stupid to give us money. But he gave us 200 grand. And so it allowed us to go, allowed us to do the things that we wanted to do that weren't just about coming up with a desperate way to pay the bills next week. So we bought a combi, and we started filming this show where we travelled around the country and interviewed winemakers and found wines, because that's what we thought was this great business idea. We launched we moved out of my garage after 4 years. We got this cool space. We hired a developer, which if I had my time again, I would have a third co-founder, and it would be a developer every time. Yeah, he's nodding. Fucking know. But anyway, so we did that, and we started, I guess, treating it more like a business. And we launched this check-in app. Again, we were chasing technology. Foursquare had come out. So we're like, what can we do with that with wine? Because everybody wants to check in at a cellar door when they're there. So we constructed this app that would do that. And it sort of was all right, but again, nobody wanted to pay for it. So we're doing all this stuff. And a year after that, so this is now 2010, and there were floods in Brisbane, and our investor was from Brisbane, and he had a lot of investments in property in Brisbane, and he'd lost a lot of money in those floods. So he's come to us, and I think he'd also lost faith in us. He'd probably discovered we didn't actually have a good business plan. So he sort of wanted his money back, and we wanted to do the right thing, so we'd already spent half of it. So we gave half it back and converted the rest of it into a loan, which we couldn't afford to pay back. And so we found ourselves right back in it and going under and starting to trade insolvent, and just like really borrowing against that to do this, and just was bad state again, which was unfortunate. And this time we had 3 staff and a lease, and it was kind of really gut wrenching because we thought we'd almost, thought, I've got an investor, we'll make it now. So we're right back there, and it was now 4 years on, so you're quite exhausted as well. Another Christmas, 2010, and Justin comes back from a little break. And he's been keeping an eye. He's been talking for a few months about this thing Groupon. Group buying is the big thing. I'm like, it's bullshit. it's the biggest company in the world, fastest growing company in the world. Yeah, but it's so like tacky. Anyway, so he comes back going, let's start a wine group buying site. And I'm like, you gotta be fucking kidding me. I'm like, we got this going on, we got that going on. You're the one who was telling me we got to focus. And now you're saying you want to start a new business, and it's like a deal site? Like what? Cheap wine? He's going, it doesn't have to be cheap wine. Yeah, it has to be cheap wine. That's shit they sell on these deals. Anyway, this was the conversation. We had it longer. Eventually, his argument was pretty much, yeah, but we're going broke, and this might make money. And Mum was like, yeah, but it feels really dirty. So anyway, we had sort of about 5,000, a tribe of about 5,000 people that were sort of, I guess, listening to what we were saying about wine. And we had some, so we thought, well, they're the ones I'm worried about. I just thought they'll think it's bullshit. They'll think we're selling out. They'll think, and you know, we'll have lost everything we built. So we said, well, let's ask them. So we did. We asked them, and we're like, hey guys, thanks for supporting us all these years in, you know, all but your wallet. We're thinking about starting a wine deals site. How do you feel about that? You know, and they were like, I just thought they'd be like, yeah, thanks. It's been great. See ya. But they were like, yeah, hell, we'd love to buy wine from you. Really? They're like, yeah, we trust you. As long as you don't sell us shit you don't believe in, as long as you keep this sort of, you know, this relationship that we have of trust going. And so I was like, okay. So then we said about, can we do this with a site that's like good wine? So we ended up sort of going, right, I remember we tried for a few weeks to get our first wine deal, and no one was like taking it. We actually went and, there was a young guy named Lee Morgan, who at the time Justin had met. He was a young guy from the Barossa who wanted to do his own thing. And he'd been like, anything you guys do, I'd love to be involved. So we thought, oh, maybe we'll get him in. He can be a partner, and because I didn't actually think it would work. So like, we'll get him in, and he can do some buying, and then we'll just be like strategic advisors. If it doesn't work, no harm, no foul. And then, you know, we'll get our landlord, and he can like be a partner. And then, because he's really conservative with money and he's old, so maybe he'll like, you know, keep the brakes. So we sort of set it up like this. And we went about trying to find our first deal, but our proposal was like, hi, we'd like to buy your wine. No, not the shit you can't sell, but the really good stuff with the Halliday gave 93 points and that everybody wants. And we're not sure how much we're going to be able to buy because we have to sell it first. But there is a tipping point, so it'll be at least 10 cases or we won't buy it. And can you deliver it? Because we don't have a warehouse. So it's not like, it was a shit proposition. But so we actually, and for 2 weeks, no one would give it to us. And then I was like, it was like a week before, and I was like, all right, I'll call some people we knew that we'd met on our little combi travels around. So one of the producers were like, yeah, how can I resist, Andre? But he was like, I'll give you a go. What harm can it do? No one will ever find out about it. So we got a good wine, Gem Tree from McLaren Bar. And we're all set to launch. And the business was going to be called Vinomofo. I'd registered this name 12 months before. I just thought it was a really cool wine name, and I'd use it at some stage in my life. I remember at the time when we were talking about this wine deal site, I was like, you're not having that name. That's a good name. I'm saving that for something good. So anyway, we couldn't think of another name, so they talked me into it. So gave them the name, so Vinomofo. We were going to launch on Monday, April the 12th in 2011. On the Friday afternoon, we got a letter from a trademark attorney, a cease and desist letter. That was a public company that had a wine called Mojo. And they were like, there'll be confusion in the market. Anyway, basically saying you can't launch. And we're like, what? And so we got advice, and they're like, no, you'll be right, but they'll probably be able to stop you from launching. So I'll just call them, we'll have a chat, I'm sure they'll be fine. So we had a chat, like, I'm sure there's not going to be, and they in no uncertain terms just said that they had no doubt a bigger checkbook than us, and they didn't give a fuck whether we were right or wrong, but they would not let us launch. And so, because we'd run this pre-launch campaign, we had about 1,000 subscribers, and we'd had a Facebook page and Twitter page and had this countdown on the landing page. So we had to launch on the Monday. So we're like, okay. And so we got together, it was Friday night at this stage, and we're like, we need a new name. And we're Googling and going and sort of reading articles on like phonetics and that, you know, that the auditory sense is really the one that, and we're like, basically we thought if we just come up with a name that sounds just like and looks like, we can just change one letter, we won't have to pay the graphic designer to make a new logo, and maybe people won't notice, just change it, honestly. And so we're going, right, so Vinomofo, we go, Vinomofo. a bit lame. Vinomofo, we just this went on for fucking 2 hours, like trying to come up with a band name. And Justin, again drunk probably, for fuck's sake, let's just call it Vinomofo for the motherfuckers who are stopping us from launching. And we're like, yeah, that's great, that's a good one. No, seriously, we need a name. And this went on for another hour. No, we didn't. And this went on for another hour. And then we just deliria. And we're going, we couldn't, could we? No. Who's going to fucking join a site called Vinomofo? So, but then we're going, what if we just did it as like a PR exercise? So we'll do it and, we'll fight the trademark, we'll get the trademark back in 2 months maybe. We'll have been like, maybe we'll invest 10 grand in legal fees. That could be like a marketing expense. And I know we don't have that, but it's maybe. So anyway, I had this plan. So we thought, let's just do it. So we did it. We launched and it went really well. We sold 32 cases of our first wine. And we're like, it's like more than, we'd tried to sell a little bit of wine previously, just like we did this, like we'd do a video tasting and people take orders and it's like drop shipping and we'd sell like 3 cases and then or 4 bottles or whatever. So this was more than we'd sold, I think, in like the previous 3 months. And we're like, ooh. And the next deal sold like 45 cases. And we had a bit of a pipeline and started getting products and we're like, it's working. And then after a month, I think we'd done like 20 grand revenue or something. We're like, fuck, we can actually pay the loan back this month. So we really started to see, so it was like, all right, this is the one. So we sort of made plans to wind down the other businesses and other products that we had. And we sort of focused on Vinomofo. And it just went really well. And second month was even better than the third month. The third month was even better. And we're like getting the hang of this. And producers are getting excited because people are writing articles and people are talking about it. And there's a bit of a buzz. And so we started getting better wines and we go, this is fucking cool. And then some dickhead at Woolworths obviously came across it and just thought, and they weren't online at this stage. So Dan Murphy's went online. Coles, none of their liquor brands were online. And distributors certainly didn't like us. And they've just gone. And so we had one of our suppliers just ring us up one day in the middle, their deal was up. He's going, shit, you've got to pull this deal. I've just had my ear chewed off by Dan Murphy's. They're threatening to cancel my contract with them and we sell them 90,000 cases. I just can't do it, guys, for the 40 cases you're going to buy. And we're like, no worries. So we pulled that down. And then the next day, it sort of happened again. And so it just started happening. And so we started only being able to get wines that weren't as exciting to it. And we realized really quickly that, wow, this could all come undone because if we can't buy wine, the wine that we want, then we've got no business. So we thought, well, what do we need to do? Shit, well, we need to grow. What do you mean grow? How far? We need to buy 1,000 cases. And then they can tell, well, let's the fuck off, or maybe. So this was our strategy. So we're like, well, what do? We raise money. Oh, no one will give us money. Well, let's try. So we went back to the people that we'd pitched money to 2 years before. And they were all like, but it was cool. I had a 4-month growth chart that looked like that. And they're going, oh, yeah, cool. Here's some money. And we go, okay, but a drag on. We go, hang on, but we were asking for, I'll be transparent, we were asking for 300 grand for 30% of the business, which we thought was great. And then, sort of 3 weeks after we'd pitched to the guy that said, yes, we'd made 300 grand, or in revenue at least, but because of the trading terms. So we're like, we don't need 300 grand, we need 600 grand. And I was like, we need $1 million. We don't need fucking money, we need people. So then we ended up getting approached by Fairfax. And we're like, I don't know, if you're a sort of startup, guys, and you've got that story and you start in a garage and you follow companies that you think they're really cool. It's sort of this path of, Fairfax or News will invest in you and they'll buy 30% and then you'll grow and then they'll buy 100% and then you'll sell it for 15 million and you retire or you'll start. This was sort of what we had in our heads. We thought this is really cool. So we started brokering this deal with Fairfax and it was a good deal. To be honest, it was like 100,000 customers, transacting customers that they would deliver for 30% of the company. And they were benchmarked against GP. So it's a pretty smart deal for us. No money for us, which was their mistake. So fucking easy to get a startup as an investor. You just go, but you deserve 20 grand each. Go on. So anyway, they didn't do that. So we signed an exclusivity contract and we were going to do the deal with them. And they sort of just took a lot of time, which was stupid because we're a 3-month-old company. So the diligence was pretty pointless. But anyway, they did it. And we sort of slipped out of exclusivity and we again took a Christmas break And came back. When I came back, there was an email in my inbox from the founder and CEO of Catch of the Day, which is a deals site. And they had, at the time, Catch of the Day was by far the biggest deals site online. They had Scoop On, which was the biggest group buying site in Australia. They had Grocery Run, which is the biggest grocery delivery company. And they were sort of category leaders, and they were really smart at what they did. So they sort of, we were like, oh, really honoured. They wanted to talk to us. They wanted to get into wine. And we're like, well, that's great, but we're just about to sign this deal with Fairfax. Like, it was literally days away. We ticked all the boxes. And they're like, well, why don't you just come over to Melbourne? That's no worries. Just come and have a look at what we do. I went, all right. So we went over and checked it out. We had a meeting with them, and they started talking. They're going, how much money do you want? We go for the business. No, that's fine. The business, we got plenty of capital for the business. You just tap into our bank account. But you guys, how much money do you want? They're like, oh, haven't thought about that. So anyway, we went back from that meeting going, maybe. And they cleverly pointed out that Fairfax had not had a successful e-commerce venture. And then when we started researching that, we went, oh, actually quite the opposite of that is what they've had. So then we sort of thought, all right, maybe this is it. But we weren't sure. They said, look, come back and just talk to our other founder who'd been away. So we flew back over. They said, maybe you can just, and the CEO sort of said, look, can you just sell it to him because he doesn't like investing in things. He thinks we can build them. So we're like, all right, so I guess we'll pitch then. I remember on the way over on the plane, Justin was he was a learner, so he was good at books and mentors and stuff, and I wasn't. And he on the plane on the way over, he goes, why don't I just read this? It was a book, and it was called, it's a really bad title, but it's a great book, The Secrets of Power Negotiating, by, I think it's Oren Clough. Anyway, it's a bad title, but it's a good book, and it sort of basically just puts it all in the context of a game and the techniques that people will use and how to counter that. And I'm reading this going, this is good, bracketing. And I'm like, higher authority, I've seen that. Because I was a really bad negotiator. I was one of those people, you go and buy a car and you're like, you think you're a good negotiator? So like you go, what can you do for me? And I go, oh, look, I can't knock anything off, but I can throw in like, fucking, I don't know, plastic windscreen cover or something. Like, done. Screwed him. So I was really bad. So anyway, I read this book, and it was really good, and I sort of thought, oh, there's something in this. And I only got to chapter 3, and we got into Catch of the Day, and they sprung it. It was a board meeting that we were turning up to, and they had a big CEO of Tiger Global Investments, one of the big, under the radar but massive VCs from New York. Andrew Bassett, Seek founder, was on their board. They had like a high-profile room, and the CEO's got, all right, so you've got 15 minutes. We're not here to fucking pitch. Like I thought we were just going to have a chat. No, we've got them all here, and we thought it was. We're like, oh. So we went into this room, and you could tell the other founders like, this is bullshit. And we're talking, and it got a bit hostile, and we got a bit defensive, and he's just going, tell me why. And there's one moment. I'll tell you a couple of moments because it's quite fun. But anyway, the fun thing. So the negotiations started for a start. And they would go, Justin and I talked through, they'll ask what we're worth. And we're going, well, what do we think we're worth? I don't know, like $1 million? Well, that's a lot. Well, yeah, but we've got to, when we read this chapter on bracketing, we're going, what are we going to say we're worth? Like, what do we want the valuation to be? I don't know, like $1 million would be good. Right, well, what do we say? 12. So the question came up, it's deadpan in the room. And they're like, so what are you worth? 12. And I'm reading the rest of the chapter in my head going, and shut up. Don't be the next person to speak. And you're just going, they're just going to laugh. And they go, They go, well, we're not so keen to sell. So we're picking a value that we think will be worth in a couple of years. We're not. Anyway, all this stuff, we're just following the rule book. And it's suddenly I was like, they're going, they know the rules. And we're going, well, they certainly know the rules. And it all became really fun and like abstract. So it was quite weird. But they're also like, they were pulling the same shit. They're like, the founder's going, they're like, oh, can you leave the room to let us consider? He's going, bullshit, I don't need time to consider. I'm going to tell you all we're not going to do it. Why the fuck do we need you? We build companies. You like bullshit with your 30,000 customers and nothing. We've got 1.5 million. It was all this rant. You tell me why we need you. I remember going, that moment, I don't know if you had this when you're going, I'm probably going to have to be offensive. It's going to go two ways. They're going to tell me to fuck off, and my reputation will be ruined, or they'll respect it. So I'm going, it's not going well anyway. And we go, do you really want me to tell you why? Yeah, I'll tell you why. Are you sure you want me to tell you why? Because it's not good for your business. Yeah, tell me why. Anyway, so I've gone, because the wines on your site at the moment are so shit that anybody that knows wine would think that your sunglasses are shit and that your wash powder is shit and that all the stuff that drives your $250 million of revenue, if they know wine, they're saying you're a $2 bargain shop and you're telling me you're not a $2 bargain shop. Our wines are that bad? Yeah, they're shit. Okay, keep going. It was this weird thing anyway. And the weird thing as well, but you're like sort of, yeah. But the weird thing as well, you sort of, I don't know, we decided that we were worth 12 million for like 35 minutes, right? But they start negotiating, we're like, and they've just like made an offer and we got this bullshit. And we weren't play acting, we just go, bullshit, they've offered us. Like, it was more than what we thought we wanted. But we convinced ourselves that we were suddenly this 12 million. Anyway, so it was this game that happened. We arrived at this thing that was quite cool, but they wanted 70% of the company, which was more than we wanted to give. So anyway, it was a lot of back and forth, and we ended up doing the deal. And we were in Adelaide at this stage, and we had about 9 people working for us. So we got on with it, and look, it was great. Suddenly you're in all the business media, and you're a story. You know, at the time everyone's writing about Spreets and Scoop-On and Groupon and Living Social, all that. We became one of those deal site stories, and that's all the business media was writing about at the time. So that probably helped us more than anything. As we discovered, their customer base wasn't particularly useful, even though it should have been. And the capital was nice, but we just found that we bought too much stock and we hired too many people too quickly, and we just started being a company that probably wasn't the smart, lean way to operate. We ended up moving to join them in Melbourne because we were sort of like, hey, we're all in. They put a lot of pressure on us. They wanted us to do that, and we wanted that experience, so we did that. And then look, a lot of things happened, and basically they as a business changed their strategy. They were going to just launch all these vertical categories and grow this empire and then float, you know, on the verge of going overseas, and we'd all cash out. And that was sort of the plan, I think, for them. I think they sort of went, oh, this is not great, and we're losing focus on our core business. So they started getting back to that. They started winding down some of the other businesses they'd invested in, and we were like, oh, that's not great for us. So we were having a chat with them, really open chat, and just saying, look, we really love this business. We'd already pulled back from that sort of funded company way of operating. We really got it back to a lean way that was a smarter way to work. And they were like, look, no, we don't mind you guys. We're not going to wind you down. You're harmless. Because we weren't integrated with any of their stuff. We were like, well, maybe that's not enough, being harmless. And maybe, you know, if we're not part of a plan, then maybe we like to be independent. So anyway, we ended up negotiating to buy the company back. Bought it back. That was 2 years ago. Got a space in Richmond. Set up. We had 11 people at that stage. We'd scaled up to 19 and then scaled back to 8 to 10. We didn't fire anyone, but we moved to Melbourne. We lost people and that was okay. So it was sort of 10 people, and we started again, and the deal was like, we bought it back with no money and no stock and just zero balance sheet. So, but we had access to the stock, and so it was quite interesting. So our bank account had $0 in it at midnight on June 30. So it was a new financial year. And we're sort of up at midnight as the founders, and we're looking at it. The first sale came through at like 12:03. And it was like 3 cases of wine. It was $587. We've all gone ding. We've gone like it was like about $9,000 to go to pay for the next pay cycle for everyone. But it was what we all felt that time. We all talked about it afterwards as well. It was like, even though we hadn't been interfered with by Catch of the Day, and they just wanted us to do well, we lost that sense of it was really visceral. It was really about us as a business and customers. It had become a bit about about Tuesday morning's sales report meeting. And we felt for the first time really like, fuck, this is life and death again. And it felt really good. So we got on with it. And I think we just made really smart decisions then. And we really cared. And so it went really well. And we've now, you know, it's not all been smooth sailing, but it's been pretty cool since then. And we've got 80 people now. There's a lot of new people. And revenue's really good. We just got back from a trip to China where we've now got a team started on the ground over there. And we're sort of got a plan to take Vinomofo for the rest of the world. So it's a really cool time now, but that feels really recent in the 6 years before. Really hard and really interesting. Really lucky that we were able to buy the company back. may have been a less exciting story had we not been able to do that. But feel pretty lucky. So I'd like to take you through now, if I do have time, just a few of the things that I think I've completely ignored the thing. Can you just skip like a couple of slides? You can skip past that. I used to be an actor. That's just something I found. That was us young and energetic. This is the other young and energetic people that work for us. And this is what I'd like to talk about now. I always talk about, so this is Kate, right? Kate joined us recently as head of content. She's come from a digital agency, probably quite smart about the way. I think everybody that joins our company, they go, oh wow, you guys are fucking amazing. Must be, because there's this feeling like we do things so well. We're actually really shit at a lot of things. And we may have been a pretty ahead of the curve digital company 3 years ago, but I'll be dead honest with you, we're quite behind the curve now. But I sometimes go, how come it's working so well? And it's because what we did get right in the beginning and have still gotten right are the foundations. The real core sort of fluffy but important foundations. And so they're the things I like to talk about. Because I could tell you the theories of personalization and recommendation, but we suck at it. But we're getting better at it. But anyway, one of the things is, I'll just ask you a question, right? So I've got an iPhone, right? Who's got, you all got an iPhone? Who's got a Samsung? You losers. What? No, I'll just qualify that, right? So you're all going, you're the loser. It's a better phone and it's cheaper, right? And you're right. Why don't I care about that? It's because I'm like, for 20 years, I've been like, oh, I'm that guy. I'm not a PC guy. I'm like a rebel and a misfit and I got bought in to what Apple stood for. And I bought into their story and their journey. And so I don't really care. And so Samsung is always a phone producer for me. And they could throw any specs at me. Oh, I say Apple's probably, they're probably on a life cycle with me unless they inspire me again some stage soon with anything other than the money they've got in their bank. But for me, that's what it became. And so like this concept of what you stand for and like why you do things, this became really important. And for us, I bought into Apple's message, not that they made a good laptop or that I bought, as my first laptop, or that they launched an iPod or an iPad or an iPhone, or we've got fucking 42 Apple products in our house at home. I bought into what they stood for, and that is, they make beautiful products that you didn't even know you need, but so do, that are intuitive, and just this design approach and the messaging and Steve Jobs, and I bought into the people behind it. But it's really what they stood for. And with us, right from the beginning, I mentioned that when we launched this silly platform, Quaff, this social wine site, the only reason people, I think, tuned into us is because what we really did was we took wine and we went, all right, wine is conservative and elitist and confusing and non-inclusive. And we went, hey, look, sneakers, t-shirts, we're in a fucking combi, traveling around with, occasional bad language. And we were speaking to a generation that weren't being spoken to. And so people went, you can make wine fun and just real. And that's what we stood for. So when we launched Vinomofo, we carried that through. And yes, the product price proposition was good. And yes, we wanted to give a good customer experience. But even today, really people buy into what we stand for, and they buy into that, the attitude we have towards wine, and the way we go about things and what we stand for. And I think that's really important. I think you think about a mission, and people go, we need a mission, vision, values, right? And it becomes like a thing, it becomes a process, and it shouldn't be. I think you've got to just take the mission. It's not a mission statement. Mission statement is something that a marketing guy comes up with or an agency fucking writes for you. A mission is that thing that gets you out of bed. Why do I do this? Now I think I could do a lot of things, right? And I feel I'm quite clever now. But I could do a lot of things. Why would I choose to, I'm not going to sell this company. I'm I'm going to do this, I want to pass it to my kids if they're interested. Why do I want to dedicate this to my life? It's because what gets me out of bed in the morning? It's because I believe that this is a better way to buy wine. I want to find every single person in the world who wants to drink good wine. I want to find every person that cares about making good wine. I want to bring them together in a better way than anybody else can. I want this industry of people that make wines with provenance and care, that they thrive and survive, and that people don't drink shit that they buy from Floors, Dan Murphy's, that someone's made as a commodity from bulk produce, that fucking Woolworths has made. I want to, that's my mission. And that's why I do what I do. So I think that's really important. The next one I'd like to talk, so I think figure that out, but be authentic. Why do you want to do this? You've got to get past the layers of because I'd like to be successful and because I'd like to make money. And they're in there. But yes, but assuming you could choose anything to do that, why have you chosen this? And that's a good way to answer that question. Not many people answer that question well. The next one, I like to, and this is a concept that a great guy named Gary Vaynerchuk first sort of introduced to me. It was really good for me to understand. A lot of people sort of have this idea of social as a platform and a customer acquisition strategy and blah, blah, blah. I like to take it deeper to what it is because I like to talk about this concept of being human and being personal and where business is headed. I like to talk to what I think the reasons are for this. So if we go back to pre-industrial revolution, right, and really since the dawn of time, where production and distribution and communication, I should have bullet points for this, but I suck at PowerPoints, so you just have to remember them. Production, like you make stuff and who you sell it to and who you talk to about it. They were all like local, right? A village, had 250 people. There were like 2 bakers. Jim the baker, he's got a business. It was a really personal way of doing business. It was a good customer era. Because Jim, Aunt Martha was one of his clients. She had 12 friends in the social group, and he had to be nice to her. He had to listen to what she wanted, have her input in the Lamingtons. He had to be really polite and have a relationship with her, because otherwise she would go to her 12 friends and say, Jim the baker was rude to me today and his Lamingtons suck, and Jim the baker would quickly go out of business. It was a good era, and that's the way it was for a long time, until the Industrial Revolution came along and manufacturing grew. And more importantly, distribution grew beyond local, but communication stayed local. So you had Jim the baker suddenly producing millions of Lamingtons, and he's distributing them all over the nation and then all over the world. But communication is still local, so Aunt Martha, certainly he's not being nice to her anymore, and he's not listening to the way she likes her Lamingtons. But if she complains, does he fucking care? She can tell 12 friends he's got 1 million customers. This was the death, and there's a lot. Oh, sorry, can you skip to the next slide? It's an industrial revolution. This was the beginning of, there's no personal side to business, and even from employment, it became about filling people to do a task, because there were many people needed to run this business. There wasn't 2 people that did all the stuff. So you lost the personal touch, became corporate. It was the beginning of the corporate. No, you preempted. And it was the death of the customer era, and it was the death of, it was the beginning of this way of doing business, and everything from org structures to communication. That is where we were at for a long time. It was awful. A lot of successful people, but awful way to do business and an awful way to market. Right up until, 2005, 2006, with the genuine birth of credible social media through Facebook. Thanks, mate. And suddenly, and it was communication catching up to distribution. So communication was now global and not local. So Aunt Martha, she doesn't like Jim the baker's Lamingtons. She's got 450 Facebook friends. She put a post, Jim the baker's sucks, his Lamingtons suck. Friends got friends and Twitter followers, and that spreads, and then someone over the other side of the world goes, yeah, I get Jim, I've noticed they suck as well lately, and I put in a complaint, never heard from anybody. Anyway, this can obviously spread, and you see it with companies, and so communication's caught up. So you return to this customer era, because even as a giant corporation, the groundswell from bad customer sentiment can spell the death of your business. So you get a customer era, and with that comes, and through the fact that these platforms that we're now communicating in are personal platforms, you get back to this personal way of doing business, even on scale. And I think I do a lot of talks for big corporations who are either on innovation or culture or on this, about how to navigate this new landscape. And I sort of believe it's really simple. Just be fucking human again, because people want to deal with people. And this corporate voice or this policy or this, it's not, nobody cares anymore. And it continues to be less and less so. So we're back in a good era, and where it's not personal, it's business. That's a bullshit statement they fucking invented in 1820. Business should be personal. You should care. Even if, we've had to let a few people go over our time, it should fucking hurt when you sack someone. You should be aware of the impact it's going to have on their life. If you have to lay off 3,000 people and you're a leader on $1.2 million a year, that's the thing about leadership. This idea that I have to make tough decisions, so I have to stay removed, bullshit. That makes you a bad leader, I believe. I think the key to being a good leader is that you care and that you take on the lives of everybody that you're impacting, including your customers and your suppliers. And that's the burden of leadership. If you're not ready to handle that, then fuck off and don't be a leader. If you're willing to handle that, and if you do take it on, yes, it fucking hurts, but it'll make you a better leader and I think a better person. So it's a good era. And it's not hard. I cry all the time at work. And don't laugh at this because this is quite serious and emotional. I cry all the fucking time at my desk and you guys don't see it. But it hurts. You do stuff. We had a guy, honestly, I heard that one of our phone brokers, just through someone else, and they weren't meant to say this, but anyway, I heard that he didn't like me. He didn't like the way I went about things. And I asked what the reasons were, and he said, look, it's basically this and this. I said, I understand that he's got a point. He doesn't understand what I have to do for my job, but fair enough. And so I sat down with him. I said, hey, I want to just have a chat with you. He's like, oh shit, I'm going to get fired. I'm like, no. I just wanted to hear what you thought because I want to learn from this, and you have a right to be really unleashed. And I sat there for 45 fucking minutes listening to this guy tear me to shreds. And I just didn't argue and I didn't defend. I thought that's not what I'm here for. I wanted to. But he left the room. I was shattered. I could have gone, oh, what does he fucking know? But I didn't. I was like, he's got a lot of fair points. I did make 2 people cry this week. But anyway, this stuff goes up. But I was shattered. I went home. I was broken. But I just cry all the time. It should hurt. I think the fact that I think I'm not a great leader in a lot of ways. I think if I could say something that gives me hope of being a good leader, it's probably that. It's probably that I do care about the lives of the people, and I do care about the whole lives. Anyway, moving on from that. So but this idea of being human, I think it's in everything. In the way people go, oh, you guys, you have such a great way of communicating. It's just, we just talk like we're going to tell you a little technique in communication that I like to use. If you're writing anything, write to a person you know. One person. Pick someone that you care about and that you wouldn't want to bullshit and that knows you well enough not to buy your bullshit. Write the message that you've got, whatever it is, a sales email, whatever, to them. And you won't be heading into this era of language that is, I'm speaking to an audience or a demographic. You'll be speaking to someone you know. And that, I think, is the only way to cut through in a noisy world full of messaging and rah-rah and policy and all that. But I think this is the key to business now. And it certainly has been for us. And it's the secret of oh my God, you guys are the best marketers. I think that's the ingredient. The last thing I'd like to tell you, and it's really the last thing, and I've probably gone over, and thanks for listening. Did someone say yes, you have? What was that? I was a quite stressed person all my life, less so in the last few years, and happier in the last few years. And I'd like to tell you why I figured out in me. It's my theory. Sorry, you can skip to that next time. I've developed this as my theory of why a lot of people are unhappy in whatever happens in their lives. So I'd like to share that with you because it's been really important to me. You may go, no, it doesn't apply to me. No worries. I'll only take another 5 minutes. My father-in-law, Rod, we employ him, very family business. On his 50th birthday a few years ago, he presented something to my wife and my brother-in-law. And it was a gift, and it was a big glass vase, and it was full of stones, just like the kind of stones you pick up on the beach. Anyway, he was like, it's my birthday, I want to give you guys this. And they're like, thanks, Dad. He's like, no, I want to explain the story. He said, so it's my 50th birthday today, right? Yes. 50 days ago, I started every morning in the last 50 days, I've gone for a walk on the beach. I go for a walk on the beach and I would find a stone for Jody and I would rub that stone and I would find another stone, my Justin stone, and I'd rub that and I'd walk along and I'd think of 1 year of my life. He goes, and all this stuff would come back to me. From the day I was born, well, obviously not direct memories there, but where did we live and who were family, friends, through my life and childhood and teen years and 20s and jobs and partners and all this sort of, he said, and every day I would walk and I'd think about the 1 year and all this stuff came back to me and I'd rub it in and so here's my life in a vase. And they're like, thanks, Dad. But I was like profoundly moved. I thought, I really got what he was talking about. And I thought, wow, I'm going to do that. So I turned 40 not too long after that. And so 40 days out from my 40th birthday, I did just that. I didn't walk on the beach and pick up stones, but I wrote. I was focused on a year of my life and I wrote anything, memories, thoughts, just whatever. And I rang my parents to get, context of where were we and who was that? And can you remember? I contacted old friends to go. Anyway, I pieced together my life in, whatever, I wrote 150 pages or something, year by year. And through that process, I'd realise I'd come across a year, I'd go, and I'd remember a person that was probably 2 years of my life, not necessarily a partner, but just big chunks of my life. I realised I'd not only just sort of not thought about them, I'd actually just not factored them in to me as a person in my life. And so when I re-engaged with those and I hit my 40th birthday, and it sounded a bit cheesy, but I was really a complete person. And it really was game-changing for me. I'd acknowledged all of this stuff, and I started thinking about that, and I thought, wow, I guess today I'd had this picture of my life, right? And it would sort of start here when I was born with Andrew. And I suspect it would sort of, never done it with cards before. I'll do it with wine. I suspect it would see how far I've come. I thought I would sort of travel along like this. This is my path, right? And I'd take a few turns, I'd find a career, and I'd travel along here and take a few turns and meet someone. I ended up here, and I'd die, and that will have been my life. What was actually happening, what likely happens with most people, so here, and no one didn't expect to do that, but I'm on it, and I'm doing this now, and travel along, and here I was currently, and like most people, probably get to here, and we die around here, which is all right, unless you spent your entire life, like I had up until 40, measuring my life along that path. And I was here, so what I was actually doing, I was measuring my life and the worth of my life in a distance away from a path that I'd planned, rather than ever actually valuing the life that was actually... You get to here, that's your fucking life, right? It don't fucking matter what your plan was. This is your life, like it or not. And I started occurring to me, the only failure, I had a lot of failures, right? The only real failure, because just go with it, right? And life is what, I think, suck it up, that's your life. You only had one. The only failure is if you spent all your time measuring it in your distance away from that, or even if your life's like on the path you perceived, then you're measuring it in the distance you are away from the goal ahead. Rather than this today, this fucking dot. Suraj, that's this moment, that's your life, and that's your life, and that's your life, and that's your life. And I started occurring to me, wow, that, and the minute I started thinking about that, suddenly everything was okay. And I was happy, because even though there was a lot of stress and there was all that stuff, it was all just contained to, I started this technique of sort of breathing and stopping and closing my eyes and smelling and listening, and then opening my eyes and looking, and it'd get me in a moment. But also just the day, I would acknowledge that whatever I was doing, shit day, good day, whatever, had plans, whatever, this day was today in my life. There wasn't so many days left, so better fucking acknowledge that. Enjoy it or not, irrelevant, acknowledge it. This is my life. So that really, suddenly everything became okay and happy. And that to me was a real key to happiness. And I really think that there's something in that for all of you guys, right? You're in here because you've got ambitions, your dreams. You're either doing what you want to be doing, and if you are, you're heading towards something, or you're not doing what you want to be doing. You think about that, it's irrelevant. And this is not a message to say don't have plans or dreams. It's the opposite of that. It's just, yes, but they're just a path or a map or something you're headed towards. They're not your life. And I think they're only your life at any given day. And that was quite profound for me. So I've started to try and share that with people. and in the hope that maybe some of you go, oh, that's a different way of looking at it. Wow, that might be something, because it's really changed me as a person, and I'm now actually much more pleasant to be around than I was. So that's my last message. Thanks for listening to me and my story. I hope that's been of some value to you guys. Wine bottle.
That's fantastic. Excellent. Thanks for the presentation. Cool.